Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. We have a bunch of content that has dropped today. EZA Strength Transforming Boujack being one of the 9 total EZAs from today. So we have a lot to do. So in the next 2 days, there's going to be a bunch of content, maybe even the next 3 days. But starting off, we are using Boujack. Only the one dupe, which I actually pulled more recently than I'd care to admit, but that's how Dokkan works. But he is level 10 links. No skill orbs for the time being. I will give him those eventually. His dupe system's probably a bit outdated just because this was done before his EZA. But nonetheless, we've got him on Broly's 200% lead of movie bosses. I don't really have much else placed to run him, although I don't think he has too many 200% leads. Actually, no, he has a ton. He actually has a ton. 9th anniversary LR Broly, Sword of Hope Trunks, and Final Form Cooley are not going to really use. Slug, who I didn't pull for, Toppo, Frieza, Hirudegon, Fat Boo. But then you're not also going to use KO or Ginyu. So while there is actually quite a few, there's also at least half that you're not going to be using right now in Dokkan. But I didn't realize he actually had so many. But we do have him on a team that is filled with Space Traveling Warriors or Inhuman Deeds category units. That way, because we need 5 to trigger his guard, hence why the team is so Broly heavy. And then we also need a total of 4 to get the full attack and defense boost he gets, depending on which category has more units. As I said, the team is quite Broly heavy. That was the only way I was going to get my 5 Inhuman Deeds units to get his guard, which we really want. So to start with, I'm going to slide him into slot 1. I know both Brolys don't link, but just in case one of them does too much damage. Boujack is starting with 335k attack stat, 240k defense once we do get some Rainbow Key Spheres. Super EZA Broly is going to support him. So he will end up getting a little bit extra, 2 Rainbow Key Spheres. And what is he going to be putting out turn 1? I mean, he's not supposed to be in slot 1, so I'll take that. 8.93. Let's not forget as well, he will be transforming. So, not going to judge him prematurely. He is getting a 50% attack and defense raise on Super. Does start the turn with 150% attack and defense. No key, which I thought was a little bit weird, but regardless. 150% attack and defense. Extreme class allies gain attack and defense plus 30%, so both Brolys are benefiting from that. Space Traveling Warriors or Inhuman Deeds category units will get key plus 2, attack and defense plus 30%, as long as you're facing 1 or more enemies, which will happen the majority of the time in the game when you're using Boujack. Considering any meaningful difficult content, you are always facing 1 enemy. There is hardly any event in the game when it comes to the actual most difficult, like Supreme Magnificent Battle, maybe even Red Zone. Majority of the time, you are facing 1 enemy at all times, so you will always get that added buff, always get that extra support for Space Traveling Warrior units and Inhuman Deed category units. And that's a big key plus 2, attack and defense plus 60%. So even though the team is quite Broly heavy, even though we don't get to use units, if we are going for Boujack's guard, which 9 times out of 10 we are going to go for, we're not bringing units like Team Turles. So we don't have loads and loads of support constantly flowing through the team. I mean, we do have Broly and Boujack himself, but he is supplying a ton of support for the team. And his support is very good regardless. Am I going to pop that? His domain's 3 turns, so I'll be able to get 1 more turn out of it. And Boujack does transform after turn 4. So yeah, we're going to use that now. We're going to use that now, because then we can get 1 turn of him with the domain active in base, and then we can have 1 turn of the domain active once he transforms. So we can end up getting the best of both worlds. But is Inhuman Deeds and Space Traveling Warriors support? I can't lie, all in all, key plus 2 and attack and defense plus 60% is very good. Like, it's very good. It's very strong. And I'm a big fan of it. Of course, he does get even more support, and he will give an additional 15% attack and defense if you're facing 2 or more enemies, and another additional attack and defense plus 15% when facing 3 or more enemies. The only problem with that is there is next to no difficult content in the game where you're going to be facing 2 or 3 or more enemies at any given time. The only time you're ever going to do that is when you're doing SBR or ESBR, which I'm going to put down as non-meaningful difficult content. Like, it could be a little bit difficult, but it's not that difficult. And it's not meaningful. Like, no one's hopping in being like, have you done the new ESBR stage? Have you done the new SBR stage? You know, things like that. People are using these new EZAs, new units against Pretty Magnificent Battle, you know, units or enemies like Go Freezer, maybe even Bulma. So in terms of meaningful difficult content, there is currently nowhere in the game where you're going to be getting to utilize Bojack's full support. But if there is a mission specifically that Bojack can hop on the team for, and it is involving Space Traveling Warriors or Inhuman Deeds units, the potential for his support is ridiculously high. Not to mention he's buffing units like some of the strongest extreme units in the game, like Broly's, like Lord Slug, and those are a couple just to name that pop into my head. But, you know, there's about 5-6 Broly units in there alone, you know what I mean? But his support of where it could get to in total is generally ridiculous. Even though you won't get that more often than not, as I said, unless you're in Super Battle Road, unless you're in ESBR, and you're doing specific missions, his support is still good anyway. Key +2 and attack and defense +60% is still very nice, especially combined with some other support you could potentially fit on this team, like Super EZA Broly. Or if you're deciding to not get his full guard, because again, he does support really well in base, you could actually just let him sit in slot 3 and, you know, bring units like Team Turles or maybe even, you know, some other units instead of like the full Broly team. There is also the likes of like First Form Freezer, etc. But unfortunately, I don't have them. There is a couple units I am missing. But again, you could use other units on the team. You would have to miss out on the guard. Or if you do have First Form Freezer, and who's the other one? If I load up Inhuman Deeds right now, there is like 2 units I'm missing. Slug, who of course I didn't summon for. And I think that's kind of about it. I mean, maybe Rose at a push if you have dupes. But if you do have one of those units, you could also put them on the team instead. That way it's not so Broly heavy. Or as I said, if you don't have the units to fill out his full, you know, full 5 units to get his guard, you can just put him in slot 3, keep him safe for a bit. As soon as turn 4 comes about, he'll transform. You can get his guaranteed guard. You don't have to worry about any conditions. And I think he would probably be fine. Especially considering he's a very good support unit. Naturally, you're going to want to slide him in slot 3 when he's in base anyway. But of course, he does have the capabilities to be in slot 2. And then he also gets an additional attack and defense +30% up to 120% when attacking per Space Traveling Warriors or Inhuman Deeds category ally on the team. Unfortunately, does exclude himself, which of course we do have because we've gone full-blown Brolys, which means we have a full team of Inhuman Deeds units.
Time for the slaughter to begin.
Now we do have Bojack transformed. I mean, in base, he's still very, very good. So even if you don't want to go for the full guard or you don't have the units to get his full guard, as I said, you can just slide him into slot 3, let him kind of be an out-and-out support unit. Then when he's ready to transform, bring him onto rotation. Because now he has guaranteed guard at the start of turn no matter what. And we can also benefit from Broly's domain still being active. The one thing that is kind of noticeable is his better linking partners are other Bojack units. So hopefully, fingers crossed, which I actually wouldn't mind one of these. I've said this before. Hopefully, in the not too distant future, we do get a standalone Bojack as a Dokkan Fest. Whether that's an LR or just a standard Dokkan Fest. Especially now, the strength one is EZA'd, because that is another unit that could fall onto Space Traveling Warriors or Inhuman Deeds, help this EZA Bojack get his buff, also provide the support for a new one, and then have an amazing linking partner. So hopefully that comes soon. He is now up to a 367k attack stat, 233k defense. He now starts stacking attack by 50%, and he'll greatly raise defense by 50% for 1 turn. He starts the turn with key +3, attack and defense +240%. As I said before, has guaranteed guard now. Already up to 12.4 mil. He's gone up by what? Almost 5 million in terms of attack stat, and now he's going to be stacking. And it's by 50%, so his attack's going to jump Yeah, 13.4 already. If those other additionals were super attacks, we would have easily been up to like 15 million already. And he's only just transformed. And it's nice as well with content being slightly longer. Turn 4 is a great turn to have your transformation on, because we can kind of get that ASAP. He does also launch an additional attack. There's a 50% chance of becoming a super, which we probably missed there, but there's a possibility of like 3-4 super attacks in one turn, which is 3-4 stacks. He does also randomly change key spheres of a certain type to strength key spheres, and he will gain an additional attack and defense plus 120 when attacking. And then to finish out his passive, he gets 60% attack, 30% defense when attacking with 3 or more key spheres, which we definitely got. Then we'll gain an additional attack plus 60%, launch an additional with a 50% chance of becoming a super attack, as long as you have 6 or more key spheres, which is very handy considering this man does change key spheres to strength key spheres. So all in all, from what I've seen, even if only briefly or with full power Bojack, I mean, that team does do a lot of damage. I do like his base form. If you are missing a few of the Space Traveling Warriors or Inhuman Deed units, depending on which you have more of, you may struggle to give him his guard. You may struggle to give him his full boost. More so the guard, because you do need 5 of them. But then again, if you can't trigger his guard, as I said, your best bet is run him as an out-and-out support until you can transform him. Then if you want to, slide him on rotation. But then once he transforms, guaranteed guard, he already does 12 million in damage, and he's not even that well linked up. And then on top of that, he stacks by 50% with built-in additionals and dupe system additionals and even skill orbs. You can stack him up very, very quickly in just one turn, purely because you're getting 50% attack raise. And then 50% defense for the turn on top of that per additional. Also very nice. And I said, his own orb changer. Again, from what I've seen in base, I think he's great. From what I've briefly for one turn seen him doing full power, he looks very good. It's a shame he loses his support, but I mean, it makes sense. But he does look very good, and I'm really intrigued to see what he does in actual difficult content. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I like his EZA a hell of a lot from what I've only briefly seen. But I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care of your day, and peace.